you've got Boston Dynamics. Obviously, they've been making impressive robots for a while. I think they're, at this point, mostly owned by Hyundai, so I guess Hyundai is probably going to make robots that are humanoid and some rather interesting shapes that I wasn't anticipating, like the one that looks like has wheels and looks sort of like a kangaroo on wheels. I'm not sure what that is, but looks a little demented, frankly. But there's going to be all sorts of robots. You've got the company Dyson in the UK, which I think does some pretty impressive things. I think the UK will not be behind, actually, on that front. UK also has ARM, which is really the best, one of the best, perhaps the best, in chip design in the world. Tesla uses a lot of ARM technology. Almost everyone does, actually. So I think the UK is in a strong position. Germany obviously makes a lot of robots, industrial robots. I think generally countries that make robots of any kind, even if they seem somewhat conventional, will be fine. I do think there is a safety concern, especially with humanoid robots, because at least the car can't chase you into this building, not very easily, or chase you up a tree, or you can sort of run up a flight of stairs and get away from a Tesla. I think there's a Stephen King movie about that. If your car gets possessed. But if you have a humanoid robot, it can basically chase you anywhere. So I think we should have some kind of hardwired local cutoff that you can't update from the internet. So anything that can be software updated from the internet obviously can be overridden. But if you have a local sort of off switch where you perhaps say a keyword or something, and then that puts the robot into a safe state, some kind of localized safe state ability, an off switch, where you don't have to get too close to the robot. I don't know. So if we've got millions of these things going all over the place,
you're not selling it. Just like that.
No, I know. I'm saying this is something we should be quite concerned about, because if the robot can follow you anywhere, then what if they just one day get a software update and they're not so friendly anymore? Then we've got a James Cameron movie on our hands.
It's actually it's funny you saying that, because in our session that we had today, I would say they made exactly the same point, right, Emma? So they're talking about movies, actually without mentioning James Cameron, they're talking about James Cameron movies. But they're saying, if you think about it, it's not just those movies, but any of these movies, trains, subways, metros, cars, buses, they said all these movies with the same plot fundamentally all end with the person turning it off, right? Or finding a way to shut the thing down. And they were making the same point that you were about the importance of actual physical off switches. Yeah. And so all the technology is great, but fundamentally this same movie is played out 50 times. We've all watched it, and it all fundamentally, the point I'm referring to, right? It all ends in pretty much the same way, with someone finding a way to just do the thing. Which is kind of interesting that you said a similar point, right? Yeah. It's probably not the obvious place you'd go to, but
maybe that could be one of the tests for the AI. We should say, like, blank is your favorite James Cameron movie. Fill in the blank.
Yeah, excellent. Right. Yes. We got over there. Yep, perfect.
Hi. Question for you both. So I'm a founder of a AI and ML scale-up in the third centre for AI, which is Leeds in the north of England. I'm a bit biased. Since the launch of ChatGPT, 3 months after that, we saw a real increase in phishing attacks using much more sophisticated language patterns. What do we do to protect businesses, consumers, so that they trust this technology better? And how do we bring them along that journey with us?
Well, I think we shouldn't trust it that much, actually. It is actually quite a significant challenge, because we're getting to the point where even open source AI can pass human capture tests. So, this is, are you a human? Identify all the traffic lights in this picture. You're like, okay. AI is going to have no problem doing that. In fact, it'll do it better than a human and faster than a human. So we're like, how do you, at the point at which it's better, a better passing human tests than humans, then, well, what tests actually make sense? That is a real problem. I don't actually have a good solution to it. That one of the things we're trying to figure out on the X platform is how to deal with that, because we really are at the point where even with open source, readily available AI, you don't need to be sort of leading the field. You can actually be better than humans at passing these tests. And that's sort of why we're thinking, well, perhaps we should sort of charge $1 or £1 a year. It's a very tiny amount of money, but it still makes it prohibitively expensive to make 1 million bots. Or especially if you need 1 million payment methods, then you run out of sort of stolen credit cards pretty quickly. So that's sort of where we're thinking, like, we might have to sort of just charge some very tiny amount of money, 0.3 cents a day effectively, to deal with the onslaught of AI-powered bots. And that is still a growing problem, but it will be, I think, perhaps an insurmountable problem next year. So, and then you have to worry about, well, manipulation of information, making something seem very popular when in fact it is not, because it's getting boosted by all these likes and reposts from AI-powered bots. So that's why I sort of think somewhat inevitably it leads to some small payment in order to dramatically increase the cost of a bot. So frankly, I think probably any social media system that doesn't do that will simply be overrun by bots.
Okay. I think my general answer would be, we need to show that we are on top of mitigating the risks, right? So people can trust the technology. That's what actually the last couple of days has been about on the Safety Summit, is just showing, we're investing in the Safety Institute, having the people who can do the research on these things to figure out how we mitigate against them. And we have to do it fast, and we have to keep iterating it. Because I think all of us probably in this room believe that the technology can be incredibly powerful, but we've got to make sure we bring people along that journey with us, that we're handling the risks that are there. And as I said, there's a job to do. And the last couple of days, I think we made good progress on it, because we want to focus on the positives and manage these things, but that requires action. And that's what the last couple of days has been about. Your story, your analogy there was part of the research that actually, the team working on the task force here published and presented yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, which is essentially that. It was using AI to create a ton of fake profiles on social media and then infiltrate particular groups with particular information.
Yeah.
Right? And actually, at the moment, that is, to your point, that is like cost-free.
It's getting to the point where it's like, really, you're going to have 100 for a penny, sort of thing. Ridiculous.
And if you think about some of these social networks at quite a neighborhood or town level, it's not that many fake profiles that you need to quickly create. Suddenly they're everywhere, and there's some local issue that might be of importance, and the team have run versions of how that would look like, and suddenly they're interacting with everybody and then spreading misinformation around.
Yeah, no, it's
exactly
a real challenge.
Right? We literally, as part of the research that we published on misinformation yesterday, it's a real challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, I mean, the images, you don't even need to steal somebody's picture, because then that's traceable, but you can actually just say, create a new image of a person, realistic looking, but doesn't exist, and then create a biography, realistic, but doesn't exist, and do that en masse. And practically the only way you'll be able to tell is that the grammar is too good. Dead giveaway.
Yeah.
No typos? Come on.
Now, I'm getting waved at because I think we are out of time. I know we can take one very brief last question, and let's make it go on. Yes, sir. Go on. You're right in front of me. Go on.
Thank you for the opportunity. Elon, question for you. Related to the X platform. Are there simple things we can do, especially when it comes to visual media? You alluded to the fact that it's fairly straightforward and effectively free to make people like yourselves say and do things that you never said or did.
Yeah.
Can we do something like cryptographically signed media? I'm from Adobe. We're working on this project.
Yeah.
Twitter was a member. Love to see X come back.
Okay.
Digitally signed media to indicate not only what was created by AI, but what came from a camera, what was real, to imbue a sense of trust in media that can go viral.
That sounds like a good idea, actually. So if some way of authenticating would be good. So yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We should probably do it.
There you go. And actually, on that point, so I've already, and so this is particularly pertinent for people in my job, right? And I've already had a situation happen to me with a doctored image that goes everywhere, negative. By the time everyone realizes, well, that's fake, and we should stop sending it, the damage is done. And actually, we were again reflecting today. If you think next year, you've got elections in, I think, the US, India, I think Indonesia, probably here. There you go. Massive news. And actually, you've got just an enormous chunk of the world's population is voting next year, right? And you've got EU elections as well.
Yeah.
Actually, just these issues are right in front of us. Next year is when big elections across the globe, probably the first set of elections where this has been a real issue.
Yeah.
So figuring out how we manage that is, I think, kind of mission critical for the people who want the integrity of our democracy.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is quite entertaining, like the Pope in the puffer jacket. Have you seen that one?
I haven't.
That's amazing. But I mean, I still run into people who think that's real. I'm like, well, what are the odds he's wearing a puffer jacket in July in Rome? Be sweating. But it actually looked quite dashing, I have to say. In fact, I think AI fashion is going to be a real thing. So I don't mean doom and gloom. Like we live in the most interesting times, and I think this is it is 80% likely to be good and 20% bad. And I think if we're cognizant and careful about the bad part, on balance, actually, it will be the future that we want, or the future that is preferable. And it actually will be somewhat of a leveler, an equalizer, in the sense that I think everyone will have access to goods and services and education, and so I think probably it leads to more human happiness. So I guess I'd probably leave on an optimistic note.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That is a great note to end on. I think that we all want that better future.
Yeah.
We think it's there. The promise of it is certainly there. Lots of people in this room, including yourselves, are working hard to make it happen. Our job in government is to make sure it happens safely. But on the basis of this conversation in the last couple of days, I'm certainly leaving more confident that we can make that happen.
Yeah.
So it's been a huge privilege and pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you
very
very much for having me. Yeah.